Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to this live show. I'm really excited to have someone special with me. Uh, a lot of you might have already done the in 28 minutes, like the microservices course from in 28 minutes. And one of the key members behind the support you are getting for that course is Mahi. And I'm really excited to have him here. Uh, we would take your questions on microservices. We would like Mahi would help us answer them. And if you have any other questions related to the evolution of microservices or things like that, we would love to take them up. Mahi, I'm really excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Ranga. Thank you for your invitation and Happy New Year to everyone.
Mahi, for people who don't know you, do you want to get started with a small introduction about you?
Yeah, my name is Mahindra, but people call me Mahi, which was very pleasing for me actually. So I started my uh, IT journey in the year 2007. In fact, I'm not a computer science student, to be frank. I'm not a BTech guy. I am from BSc Mathematics from Satyasai Institute of Higher Learning. So I think mathematics is a core for enhancing your computer skills, and it will help you to do a lot of better code and logic wise. I'm talking about, yeah. So it gives you a kind of what you call, I mean, scope of writing a quality code will be increased when you have a mathematics background. So after that, after doing my BSc, I've done my MSc in computer science. I actually, in fact, I learned fundamentals in computer in first year of MSc computer science actually. So I learned what is computer, what is CPU all about. So yeah, I stood first in the university first in 2006 and 2007 from Sri Venkateshwara University. So that's where the journey has started. It's been almost 15 years since I was in this came to this industry actually. So because but every day my driving force is mathematics. I never left behind because even till date, whatever the logic which I wrote, I'm always writing on a paper and putting onto the programming, because programming language is just a syntax which we will be writing it, but more predominantly the logic is the each is imbibing which I was imbibed from the mathematics itself. So that's what that is a motto behind for me. In 2007, like software is connecting the world, right? Like through that, Ranga just posted one small message because I was going through the Ranga's course since 2011, small bites actually in the sense like, but luckily in 2019 I got this invitation on a one fine morning. I accepted it, and during the weekend I was supporting him for this because that will enhance my skill so that I can incorporate into the in the live projects as well. Yeah, that's what. Thanks, Ranga, for your that.
Awesome. Uh, Mahi, okay, for people who are out there, like you know that the in 28 minute, like the best selling, the most popular in 28 minutes course that we have is Master Microservices with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud.
Yes, yes, yeah.
That course has almost 150,000 learners. And
Mm,
one of the most important guys supporting that course, supporting your questions that you asked during that course, is
mm,
Mahi. Mahi has been actually doing a wonderful job. You know that, I mean, microservices is a wide, I mean, it's a very vast area, right? So we earlier when we started with the course, it just had Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. And last year, we even added in Docker and Kubernetes into the course. So it's now actually a complete journey, starting from REST API, Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, building a sample microservice, adding all the specific features that are needed for microservices, and containerizing it, and also running it with Kubernetes. Like supporting this kind of a course is, I mean, creating is one thing, but supporting it and making sure that everybody is able to run it and do it in a hands-on way is not an easy job. Mahi, how's been your experience doing that?
Um, it's not a roller coaster, I should say, but it was it's a fun actually. Uh, Basically, I am from a my father is a teacher actually, basically. Okay, so it gives me, because I learned from my father that the best way to teach people is to you should understand it simply, and you should make them to understand in a very simpler language. So if you are trying to explain it in a very simple words, like Einstein said, I think you are well understood and you are able to explain to them actually. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, microservices. I think the in 2019, I think microservice was a buzzword till date. So everybody is talking about, and I would like to because when I was working in that particular organization, that they requested me to do one small POC on microservices. Actually,
Okay.
I was thinking, so how this microservice looks like. I've never saw that, because we what you call imbibed most of the time with the imbibed mostly with the this one, like monolithic architecture, the architecture which was very tightly coupled, and we always fighting with that day and night and all these things. How these people will be creating microservices? Then I started digging some course, so I finally found this course, and I tried to understand how that architecture was built.
Mm.
So microservices was, it's like a dismantling a lot of layers of the application and putting it together, and connecting each other through the different components actually. In fact, like how different design patterns was which is there in the Java, microservices itself is having a kind of a different design patterns. Depends on the depends on the use case which you are going to build. We will be imbibing or incorporating those things actually. So I think Ranga's course, which helped me to go through each and every concept. I mean, there is various layers till I think in 2021. I am seeing a lot of changes in the Spring Boot application and all these things actually. So initially, I thought that okay, we can create a microservice only through Spring Boot,
Mm.
but as people are asking so many questions and things, I was researching more about that actually. Okay,
Right.
okay. Microservice is not about just building in the just alone in the Spring Boot. We can build through Node.js. We can
Yeah.
build through Python. We can build through Go, and any programming language which you have actually. Okay,
Exactly.
so but before that, like a what I understood is it's not about just creating dismantling small order service or whatever the service which we have, like which whatever the I think whatever the customer exchange service or these things which we will be doing it. Okay, it is about learning the uh, REST APIs fundamentally, how the Richardson
Yeah.
maturity model was taken place. Okay, so these are the fundamental things which should be everybody should aware about it before to learn about microservices actually.
Yeah.
So those things, I think many times people will ask about all these questions, and I was digging through some of them which I was whatever I have experienced and what I have faced. I was able to explain to them. Some of them I was do kind of a small kind of a research and then giving it to them, and I will try to answer them in a very simple words.
Yeah.
I will, because not everybody is able to, not everybody is experienced people to understand what we are saying. So
Exactly.
sometimes we have to put it in a very simple words
Yeah.
so that it will be reached to the people actually. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the interesting things about the course is actually, I was surprised to see a number of learners actually use that course to start their journey with Spring Boot. So they
Mm,
wouldn't even know Spring Boot, and a lot of them
mm,
would come into the course and
mm.
start asking basic questions about specific annotations in Spring Boot as well. So
Yes.
it's kind of a wide range of audience that come to the course, because it would
Mm,
be very novice, and there are also experts, right? Somebody who's really, really good at microservices, probably they would want to review the concepts. So they would come to the course as well. They would come and look at it. And like probably somebody wants to learn Docker, Kubernetes, or they come directly to that course as well. So it's a wide
mm,
range of people who would come to that course and
mm.
supporting it. And the questions are also wide range, right? It's
Yes.
not like some questions are like very, very basic. So you have to go down to that level and answer it. And
Yes.
the other kind of questions are like maybe pretty. like difficult to answer as well. Maybe some advanced concept in Kubernetes. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a very very tough course. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's one of the most challenging courses to support
Yeah.
technically, and
Yeah.
also like because there is wide range of audience, like even
Mm.
mentally, it's a very very tough thing to support. One of the
Yeah.
attributes that I love about Mahi is his patience. The amount of patience he has and the amount of dedication he puts into each and every answer is amazing. Mahi, where do you get that from? Where do you get that patience from?
Uh, Actually, for this patience, I got it from my father, Ranga,
Okay.
because um, being a teacher, uh, not only that, actually, I'll take one small example. Suppose recently we planted around 500 mangoes, actually. So to cultivate that, how much amount of time could have taken is, I mean, he put a lot of time to, he like trees, actually. So he put whatever a small work which he is doing patiently will do. He'll wait for the result, actually, because the growing up a tree and growing up a son or daughter, it's almost same. So we have to nurture them, and this is all. So I'll draw the inspiration from that, and also from my mother. So that is the one which gives me that inspiration, Ranga. And
Perfect.
also so many family members in my team, my home, actually.
Perfect. During the time started, from the time you started supporting the course to now, like it's probably you not be tracking the stats, but uh, the number of learners on the course grew by almost 100,000. When you started supporting the course, there were
Yeah.
50,000 learners on the course. Today we
Yeah.
have 150,000 learners on the course. And I think this is the number one course on microservices in the entire world. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
I think more learners are doing this course,
Mm.
especially the Java guys are doing this course to learn microservices. So I mean, you are doing an amazing job supporting it, Mahi.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not only me, actually. It is, in fact, rather than I'm helping to them, I am I learned so much by asking. If suppose if they are asking some question, right, I will go and study about that concept. Actually, it is not about this one. Okay,
Absolutely.
sometimes you are giving some kind of a pointers. Okay,
Yeah.
so this kind of a question we should answer like this. Okay,
All right.
maybe I should not go in a writing in a very detailed way to that question, but in a very short and description. Sometimes
Mm.
you have to write it, sometimes you should not write it, actually. So that's why, Ranga, that's what makes a difference, actually.
Awesome. Awesome.
In
Good.
fact, the microservices, the concept, the Microsoft services trends, by taking that example, I
Yeah.
think almost 2 months I've given a course in my current organizations, actually.
Yeah. Actually, one interesting fact is today currency exchange and currency conversion services, which are the examples which we used around. If you go and do a Google for currency exchange service, you would
Mm.
see it being used in so many microservices examples. So if you
Correct.
just go
Correct.
there and search in Google about that, I think
Yeah.
like, one of the biggest advantages of, I mean, it was a luck. I mean, it's not. See, a lot of things like we have good intentions. You do
Mm.
something, and luck favors you, right?
Yes.
So
Correct. Sure.
I mean, when we started creating the course, like started creating this course, like this course was released, I think early 2017, kind of.
Yeah.
Uh,
Correct.
in that time frame, actually, microservices were not so popular. So we are
Yes.
ahead of the game, and
Mm.
we created this course, and slowly learners started doing this course, and those examples are now the standard examples. Like a lot of times, whenever
Yeah.
somebody wants to explain microservices, I see currency conversion and currency exchange
Correct.
being used.
Exactly. To
That
be
makes
frank.
me really, really happy.
Yes. 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 In fact, whatever the pilot project I worked for one of the project in one of the organization. They have taken that as a base reference to create other microservices as well. So
Right.
the concepts which I learned in this course, okay, which helped me to implement it in that whatever the pilot project. Because in order to build that project, right, early morning I used to get up at 3 and learn this course, and then go to office and implement that whatever the thing which I learned that day. So it is quite challenging.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like at that time, right? I'm
Yeah.
talking
That time.
2017.
Yeah.
I found it very, very difficult to get everything working. There are so many
Correct.
things that are
Mm,
involved, so many moving pieces, and to
mm,
have all of them running at the same time, and
mm.
like on, like probably a lot of learners don't even have the hardware. Like the computers, probably the laptops might not even support so many things. So we had
Yeah.
to actually fine tune it in such a way that okay, I
Mm.
can run at least 5 Spring Boot applications uh, on a 2017 laptop,
Yes.
and it was quite a journey designing that. And
Correct.
yeah,
And also, I would like to add one more point, Ranga. In fact, this course, right? I experimented in all operating systems. Okay.
okay.
Uh, it is like I experimented in Mac. I experimented in Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 8, because it's not about just a course actually, but because the concept behind the microservice architecture, why we need to use that. Okay.
Right.
um, it is like, it is, there are some pros and cons every software product which we create actually. Okay. In fact, to the same thing applicable to the microservices as well. Not all the time we should use a microservice,
Yeah.
because I'll put an example actually. I worked in one of the bank company. um, so it's a company, but they're requesting for the Spring Boot application.
Mm.
S- Being an architecture, we should not always to create some application in the Spring Boot. Okay. Because if you want to run a Spring Boot simple hello world application, at least it will take with a package of jar more than at least 200 MB,
Mhm.
200 MB something.
Right.
But it's not about just running in a local system, right? We need to think about the scalability, resilience, availability,
Right.
performance, all these things consideration.
Yeah.
So some banks don't have that enough infrastructure actually. Okay. Will you
Absolutely.
still go for Spring Boot with the Java? No,
Yeah.
I'll go with the Node.js.
Right.
Okay, the same
I
REST concept
have
we
a
can
different
treat
view
it.
there, Mahi. Actually, Java has been doing really, really good. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I'm not
I
saying, I'm talking about other side of the microservices as well.
No, no. I mean, I see. It's not a silver bullet. That's perfectly valid, right? I don't think
Mhm.
the complexity of microservices. There is a overhead which is associated with microservices.
Yes.
Not just the performance overhead. There is
Mm.
also a lot of cognitive overhead when you go to
Yes.
microservices,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not something you need to go to if your application is simple, right? So you
Mhm.
don't want to do that, or
Yeah.
if you are in a startup and you are getting started,
Mm.
focus on your business. Like
Yes.
try
Yes.
and follow the best design principles. Try and
Correct.
make sure
That's
your
what I,
code is simple.
design patterns, whatever the design
Exactly.
pattern
So
which
focus
is there.
on low level design rather than
Mm.
implementing a perfect microservices architecture, right?
Yes.
But like yeah, I'll take that point.
Yeah.
However, with respect to Spring Boot taking a lot of memory, I think with Graal VM, with the latest changes which are happening in Spring Boot, it's
Mm.
not such a problem anymore. You can
Yes.
actually run Spring Boot using very, very less memory and with a very much like very improved startup time. So I would
Correct.
think we are not still there with Node.js. Obviously,
No,
yeah,
no, no, no.
it's completely
Now
different,
it is completely
but
different.
it's
Java
not
has taken place.
challenging.
Yeah,
And also,
because
one more
mm,
factor was containerization, right? So
content.
containerization earlier, if I want to create a container with a container image with Spring Boot on it, you need a Java image, and
Mm,
the older Java images are huge, right? So,
yes.
but
Yeah.
I think with modularization, like Java 9, and with
Mm,
some of the latest changes in Java 16, 17, I
mm,
think even there Java has made rapid strides. The
correct.
recent Java containers that you need to create, that you can create, if you optimize them well, they don't
Mm,
need to be as huge anymore. So,
correct.
yeah, there were
Yeah.
challenges earlier, but
Mm.
I don't think there would be challenges uh, going forward.
Yeah, because that's what when I was discussing that time, because I didn't know that there is a certain design patterns which was taking place, which was there in microservices, which we need to incorporate it properly so that we can implement it even with
Yeah,
the lowest infrastructure as well. Then I understood that okay, we have to
exactly.
use this one actually. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially, I
Mm,
think the memory becomes a very, very important factor
mm,
because the more we go towards containers and container orchestration,
mm.
on a node, the constraint is memory, amount of memory, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You have application which consumes less amount of memory. then you'd
mm,
be able to run multiple instances of the same application on the same instance, on the
yeah,
same.
yeah,
However, if it's consuming a lot of memory, then the
mm,
number of instances that you would be able to create are lower. So you would need much more
correct,
infrastructure.
correct.
So yeah,
That is,
it's
that is
very important.
the beauty of Spring Boot is it is like it works like in the concept of abstraction actually. Okay,
Right.
uh, you never know because most of the question which I got it is with through the how that auto configuration works basically. Okay, but initially the first time when I heard that question was when I heard in 2019, because that is a really tough question for me because
Okay.
uh, because you explained it very well in the auto configuration in the ahead of the course, but again I went through the whatever the complete course and then understood, and I was able to explain, okay, this is how the auto configuration works. There is kind of a meta in factories will be there.
Right.
So all these things actually, because that's where the people will get so much of interest in the course. Okay, I think there is something, some beauty is there in this course which we need to learn from it, and I think can enhance it from this Spring Boot course actually. So that's what I understood.
Absolutely. There's a question.
Mhm.
Nerushanian is asking Node.js for bank application. Is it more secure than Spring Boot? What's your view on this?
um I mean, with respect to if it is intranet connection which you are doing some kind of a if you're not exposing to the public, but if you are doing through the internet connection whatever the REST APIs which you are doing, then I think it is good on good for Node.js. But depends on how you are, if you're not doing any kind of if you're not sending any kind of PII information like personal PII information, then it is, then if you're not sending any sensitive information, then it is good apart from that.
It's also about how you design it, right? So it's also about, I
Yeah.
doubt it's related to Node.js versus Spring Boot. I think you
Mm,
can build both Spring Boot and Node.js in a secure way.
mm,
Uh, so it's all about how you architect, how security is built into your application,
mm,
and like obviously, one big factor when it comes, like for me, like the major difference from between Node.js and Spring Boot comes when it comes to building huge microservice which is maintainable, right? So I feel somewhere, like somehow, for building large projects,
mm.
Java is much more maintainable than
Correct.
other languages. Somehow I don't
Totally
feel
agree.
JavaScript and Python are geared towards, they are much more dynamic languages,
Mm,
but I don't think they are geared towards huge projects. So
correct.
when it
Yeah.
comes to, I mean, obviously, when we go to microservices, we expect that they would not be huge things, but that's
Correct.
not how the world works,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even though we are using microservices, I have worked with applications which have like a few, like 100,000 lines of code. So yeah,
Yes, yes, Ranga. Yeah. I
so
think it's not about just understanding the microservices. It's not, I mean, there are a lot of concepts around it. We have to understand it. It's not about, okay, it is not just about learning about the Fin concept or it is about learning about config. Okay. I mean, API gateway or something like that. Okay.
absolutely,
There is a
absolutely,
lot of things, lot of, I think patterns. I should say the design patterns like Strangler and
absolutely.
anti patterns. There are a lot of anti patterns are there, green deployment pattern, all these different patterns which surely help you to design your application in such a way that, okay, in which use case we have to go for this actually. I
Yeah,
think recently I read about the Strangler pattern,
yeah,
which was giving me beauty of it actually, because what is happening is Strangler pattern, suppose if you have a monolithic application, we can't move everything to the
absolutely.
microservice actually. So we have to move a small by small service. We have to deploy it. It's like a A/B deployment, like a blue green deployment. So something like that actually. I think many of the startup companies, whatever they are doing, greenfield applications, greenfield projects, they are building through microservices, and then they are thinking about the infrastructure because nowadays, right, since cloud has come into place and DevOps is in place. We don't
Yeah,
need to think more about all that infrastructure, all this such, because you just build your business logic.
yeah,
Rest of the things, cloud and deploy, DevOps will take care of it.
exactly. I think cloud is making implementing microservices and things like that much more easier.
Yeah,
And things,
yeah,
if you're making use of Kubernetes or things like that, I mean,
mm,
especially, I mean, one of the biggest challenges with Kubernetes is creating a cluster and managing it. And if the cloud
yeah,
provider is taking that away from you, you can focus on, yeah, just your containers. You don't really need to worry about the cluster at all. So, I mean,
yeah. I
it's
think
not as simple as that. Definitely, there are challenges associated with it. I'm making it very, very easy, but yeah, it's much more simpler than managing the cluster on your own.
no. That's what Ranga. What the point? What you said. You're making it simple because you understood the complete concept about that and putting it to the course, so that right people can understand from that, and then they can take and experiment it in various phases of their life
Exactly.
actually. So but the core fundamental what we are covering in the course is very much important. That makes a difference to understand further actually. Okay,
Exactly.
deep dive. If
Yeah.
they want to deep dive, they can take these inputs and putting into, they can experiment it actually. That's what.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mahi, we have a question.
Mhm.
The name is little tricky. How do I pronounce it? Full now fal. Do you want to try reading the name, Mahi? I have no idea. Okay. Uh, Probably
Full
like
now
I'll.
fall. Full NAOU fall.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So the question is basically, whenever we have a question, do we try the solution in our local environment before answering? And there is also like a follow-up question. So I'll put that out to you as well. So what's
Mhm.
your approach to answer a question? First of all, like I'll probably take the first question. Do you try the solution in your local before answering? If I have to try everything in my local before answering, and if I'm answering 10 questions every day, then I'll spend the entire day trying things in my local machine before I would
Yeah.
answer them. Right.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, now I'll leave it to you, Mai. Go ahead, take the questions.
Yeah. Since Ranga is busy, I am little free most of the time, right? Before answering that, mm, like you said, right, I will more for not for all questions actually, but at least the questions which they are facing some issue, I will try to replicate in my local machine, because right, when you go into their shoes and try to feel the what is the so problem which they are facing,
Right.
then only I can able to give what is the solution for that.
Exactly.
Okay. So generally what I will do is, for the most of the Ranga course, um, I will try to learn everything first. All the course completely I will do all experiments. In fact, I won't put question on inside in the course, but I'll ask directly to Ranga because I have the chance to ask Ranga. So I think, in fact, I think couple of times I asked actually, to how to approach that during the Kubernetes cluster and Docker.
Right.
So then I will implement it and note down that point actually. And before, suppose if the same question which anyone is asking, I will directly I will answer that. That is one thing. The next question is
What's your okay? Now I'll probably add to whatever Mahi is saying, right? So,
mm,
uh, Mahi, like we also have a debugging guide. So one of the most important things that we did with the microservice course is
yeah,
because it's very, very difficult to support, and
mm,
lot of times the local machines have a lot of variations and there are challenges. What we did is we created an amazing debugging guide. So,
yeah,
like, if you have a problem with, let's say, Eureka, or if you are having a problem with, let's say, API Gateway, we have a specific debugging guide where we discuss exactly what are the things that can go wrong. I mean, there might be a typo, there might be some property you would have misnamed, or you might have
mm,
missed to put something in a component scan. Right? There are a lot of areas where you can make a mistake when it comes to Spring Boot, microservices, things like that.
yeah,
So we have a debugging guide identifying the most common mistakes and pointing you in the right direction, and also giving you a few other things that you can try. So there are
yeah,
certain problems you might face just in, let's say, Unix or Linux machines.
yeah,
So we also describe them in there. So
yeah,
yeah, whatever experience Mahi has when he does the course initially, all that experience also goes into the debugging guide, and we keep updating the debugging guide when we every few months to ensure that people whatever we have learned in the last few months also is reflected in the debugging guide. Mike,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
yeah. Like I said, Ranga, thanks for reminding me that point. Actually, the troubleshooting guide, I think most of your problems will solve actually, because it is a consolidated question QA FIQ,
Right.
which Ranga has done that, and I think it will solve most of the problems. If it is something out of that whatever which we have, then we can. I think we will take that point, and Ranga will be substantiating that troubleshooting guide with the help of ours. All we'll discussing among ourselves. Actually, that's how it will go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think one more question coming in from Full Navfal. Do you have
Mm.
any statistics? What are the most asked questions on your course about microservices, please? Uh, Actually, I doubt if we have any statistics, but all the most frequently asked questions would be part of the debugging guide. Do you want to take that question, Mahi? Anything you want to add?
I think statistics side, we are not completely focused on it actually. We are more going towards a solution oriented, because if people are facing some problem,
Yeah,
we will try to help as much as possible
yeah,
on need basis, either through by giving a lending hand, by giving a prompt a solution or something, or we can request like Ranga and myself are saying, like we are giving some kind of a troubleshooting guide. I think that is the most thing actually for
exactly.
most of the questions. Yeah.
So, and also one of the things that we focus on a lot on is updating the debugging guide.
Yeah.
So anytime, uh, not just the debugging guide, it's also updating the course, right? As Spring Boot
Yeah.
versions come in, as there are changes,
Mm.
we keep updating the course to reflect the changes which are happening, right? So that's
Yeah.
another thing which we keep doing in reflection. So there were a lot of questions about containers, container orchestration early, right? Like
Yeah.
2018, 2019 start. I saw a lot of
Mm.
questions around container and container orchestration and microservices. And
Yeah.
as I experienced container orchestration, I
Mm.
found teaching microservices without containers and container orchestration does not make sense. And that's why
Yes.
we decided, okay, I mean, this is a complex thing to do. Right now, we only are teaching Spring Boot, Spring Cloud. If I bring in Docker, Kubernetes, it becomes really complex course. But we took I mean, our hunch was basically microservices without containers don't make sense anymore, right? Because
Mm.
some most of the popular enterprises use microservices using containers, and we thought, okay, let's go. I mean, it's tough, but let's go and update the course to put these things in. And typically, there are other questions related to patterns, maybe related to security. Those would be probably some of the typically asked questions. Maybe some questions related to frameworks, things like Quarkus, for example. Yeah,
Yes.
that's like those kind of questions would always be there.
Yeah. I would like to add one more point, Ranga. Good that you, because right, if you see from the microservice V1 to V2, what we thought, I think initially was,
Right.
uh, I mean, just been building a small microservices and connecting each other. I think it is like an initial footsteps to microservices actually.
Right.
But the when we talk about microservice trends, right, we have to talk about containers. We have to talk about container orchestration, and it is like a roadmap to the cloud actually. What we have
Right.
done, the course is like a roadmap to the cloud. Okay, 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 guys. You are building an application, so where you are going, see you are, since you are talking about microservices and all this lookup, building a loosely coupled applications, all those things, where are you heading towards actually? Because world is moving towards um, cloud and Devops or something. But how? Because this course will give you roadmap to the cloud. Okay, container you have to learn, container orchestration, and then you have to learn in between. You have to understand that there is a bridge between the devs, development and operations actually. So I
Absolutely.
think this course will give you the roadmap to understand between the development and operations. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think DevOps is very, very important, right? I mean, like as we go further and further, cloud makes a lot of the things that are part of, I mean, continuous integration, continuous
Yeah.
deployment,
Yeah.
infrastructure as code. Uh, uh, like all these things are very very easy in the cloud. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think implementing DevOps, like especially as more and more enterprises adopt the cloud, I think implementing DevOps becomes much more easier. And
Yes.
that's like we wanted to be in the future. We did not want to like just be doing what's in the present, and that's why we used Google Cloud. So we run actually Kubernetes in Google Cloud in the course. So that was
Mhm.
another amazing aspect. Nedishalian is asking a question: how to become part of in 28 minutes team? Okay, actually, one of the things I wanted to like, uh, Mahi, I mean, like, how did it help you during the job, right? So doing this, how did it help you during the job? I mean, day to day job.
Day-to-day job actually, Ranga, because the core concept of Spring Boot is about, I think, most of the time when you build an application, microservice application, right? Most of the time you will get error, no such bean definition exception. I think there is some bean not found exception, no class found exceptions. All these exceptions will find it actually. Okay, these exceptions sometimes makes people so, I mean, how to figure out, because if it is a Spring MVC, we can go and see where the whether that bean was configured in the correct in the servlet container or something like that.
Right.
But in web.xml, or if the data source is not configured, we might go for the hibernate config.xml or something like that. But
Exactly.
this is because Spring Boot always works in a abstraction level, right? We have to understand it, where that bean was. So then we need to understand about the component scan. Okay, component scan has to be there, how that scanning because we have to understand how that scanning will work. And
Absolutely.
also there are different annotations of the component, like
Exactly.
component, like repository is there, service layer is there, because repository, service layer, service, all these are specializations of component actually.
Exactly.
Okay, so all these things it will help you to do that actually. But in the organization, many times I explain the concept of microservices. I just not about talk about just it's a we have to build a loosely coupled application. We need to build through the a right pattern actually.
Exactly.
So that one, Ranga.
Cool. My so what you are saying is basically by supporting the course, you were able to
Hmm.
understand the fundamentals much more, and you were able to see the problems which people are facing, and thereby your fundamentals became really strong.
Yeah.
And also, like one of the other interesting aspects of supporting people, like supporting learners, I found, I mean, in my experience, was uh, you like because there are also a few learners who are really really experts. A
Hmm.
lot of them actually point you in the right direction in terms of trends with microservices. So they would ask questions where, okay, uh, I would be thinking, hey, why did I not think about this? Right. So
Correct.
there are a lot of aha moments like that where
Hmm.
I learn a lot. Right. So that's what I see. Like when I answer questions every day in, day out, I'm thinking about it every day, and I see the way I think about the same thing. Right. So uh, the way I thought about microservices in 2017 is completely different from the way I think about microservices in 2021. When I
Correct.
re-recorded microservices part of the course in 2020, it was a completely different experience.
Correct.
Like, I mean, the
Totally.
same, I mean, the concepts were the same, but
Mm.
the way you explain them, because of answering the questions over the 3 years, I know okay what's happening, what are the challenges learners are facing. So it's becomes a completely different equation, right? So
Yeah.
doing the day in day out support really really made me really good at Spring Boot, and also made me good at how to handle questions in general.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
is
Yeah.
that something
Correct.
you see too?
Pardon?
Is that something you see in your experience as well?
Yeah, sometimes some questions made me to think in a different perspective, because maybe if not I'm not facing while doing my course or something. Maybe I have to understand from their level of understanding the course actually. I'm not sure what whether he is a beginner, whether he is an intermediate or expert people. It is very from people to people, and because it is right amount of focus when you are doing the course actually. Okay, So we have to think all these permutation combinations, and then we have to answer that. And also sometimes I won't immediately respond to that question, because I have to go back and see what kind of a research I have to do before answering to them. Because rather, if it is a delaying responding is not a problem, but don't give the wrong answer to them, because that they will take it as an input, and then build their perception about that concept in a heavily actually. But
Exactly.
that should not take it forward.
Exactly. Exactly. So, anybody out there, if you would want to be part of the in 28 minutes team, all that you need to do is actually give me an idea about your expertise. Like, we are definitely looking for people. Like, we are looking for a lot of people to support our courses. So, if you would want to be part of the team, shoot me an email. If you want to write content for us, we write a lot of content on Spring Boot. We write a lot of content on Google Cloud. So, if you want to be part of the team, you want to write content, uh, do shoot out an email. We are also building a YouTube team. So if you think you have the skills to host people and ask the right questions to experts, you have the skills on cloud and DevOps, do shoot us an email and let's see how where things go from there. So yeah, Mahi, there are a few more questions coming up, so probably we'll pick them up in the order in which they are being asked. Let
Sure,
me
Ranga.
quickly see what are the questions which are in here. Okay, one question which was asked by Full Naupal was, are you planning to add Kafka to handle asynchronous use cases in microservices? Uh, like we have not really evaluated that yet. So the thing is, Spring Boot and Spring Cloud, there are new versions coming out in 2022. Okay, we are already in 2022. So this year there would be a Spring Boot 3, there would be Spring 6, and I would also expect new versions of Spring Cloud. So we would completely record the microservices course for that. And when doing that, I would do an evaluation and see if I would want to add in an asynchronous use case into the microservices course. Right now, we have not really made that choice. Mahi, do you want to add anything regarding that?
Yeah, Kafka is taking place very much, Ranga,
Yeah,
because
Kafka is definitely being used a lot. It's just,
yeah.
I think, a call of call. I
Mm,
mean, it's more like yeah, how how much does it really make sense to add a little bit more complexity to the course? So now that's the question, right? So
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
people actually take this as the first course, and
yeah.
how much more complex? I mean, Docker Kubernetes on their own
Mhm.
are complex enough. How much
Yeah.
more can we make? I mean, probably we'll add it. I have no idea.
Mm.
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm putting things out like what right now I'm putting thoughts as they are at the top of my mind. I've not thought through it deeply.
Mhm.
Probably like if we have to make this choice, I would have a call with Mahi. Probably we'll discuss it for 3, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days. I have no idea, and then we would make a decision. But right now, on the top of my head, I can see that Mahi is for it. I am against it, but I have no idea how it would go. So,
Yeah, but I would like to add some points about
please,
Apache Kafka,
yeah,
because Apache Kafka is not just a messaging platform like how everybody is thinking. Apache Kafka is an event streaming platform which will do a lot of concepts. Uh, it's not just about a messaging platform, I'm sure. Okay, it is just about uh, uh, I mean, it contains a lot of places. It's not it's like resiliencies, availability. Okay.
yeah,
um it architecture wise is so good. I think soon it will replace all messaging platforms like IBM MQ,
right,
all different like IBM MQ and the different MQs which was taking JMS or whatever we are using. I think it is not about just a messaging platform. It's an event
right,
streaming platform which real world how it will be using it actually.
exactly,
LinkedIn was built on top of Apache Kafka, and most of the startups, whatever the real time, because right, see, world is so fast, right? People are so fast enough to understand the concept, or everything they want it in a span of time. So how
exactly,
we want to expect that if the message is reaching to the IBM MQ, because messaging MQs mainly works on the batch or something. But if you want to have a real time application, real time spontaneous actually, I think many of them experienced during this pandemic actually, because we will be using heavily on Paytm phone pay transactions actually. In earlier days, if you go to some shop, right, if you swipe your card, it will go to the transaction, it will take some time, at least it will take 1 or 2 minutes. But now
Right.
with the QR code, the transaction and the real time is happening very fast actually.
Absolutely.
Everything is happening behind that, is that's what I understood. Okay, it may be a
Right.
different person from different people, but event streaming is happening at the moment actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think asynchronous has a huge role to play in the microservices architectures.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like, the moment you make things asynchronous, you are reducing the complete load on your application, as well
Yeah.
as it makes your application really, really resilient, right? So the chance that something goes wrong is less. And once you make it
Mm.
asynchronous, you can, I mean, even if there's a problem in processing
Yeah.
that request, you can easily retry. And
Yeah.
also, if like you can probably batch a few things, and yeah, obviously asynchronous has its own set of advantages. It's easy to scale,
Mm.
much more easier to scale than non-asynchronous kind of
I would
things.
like to add one more point, Ranga. Since
Mhm.
we're talking about asynchronous, actually, Apache Kafka helped you. Yeah. I mean, in the AWS, right? If you are working on AWS, actually,
Right.
how the developer, because since cloud is everywhere right now, okay, we are moved function. I mean, earlier we used to use on-premise, iPaaS, and I think platform as a service,
Right.
SaaS, software as a service. Now the world is moving towards a function as a service. Like
Mm.
if you use the
Sure.
concept of AWS Lambda, okay,
Yes.
it is like a fire and forget. You no
Yes.
need to think about your scalability, because your application, whatever the instance, suppose if you want to trigger some kind of a notification email, suppose if there is a sale is going on in the Flipkart or Amazon, actually, how that the notifications will come, because they will be placing some kind of a Lambda functions
Right.
which will trigger to the people. It's like a firing, it is like a firing and then forget it, because there
Exactly.
is no, your application just need to run on a particular schedule time, that's it. So
Yeah.
world is moving towards that function as a service, so we have
Absolutely.
to think about
Absolutely.
that one also. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's perfect. Yep. Let's probably pick up a few more questions. Okay, this is actually okay. Programmer. He says, "I am from Pondicherry. Tamil தெரியுமா bro? தமிழ் நல்லா தெரியும் சொல்ல முடியாது. கொஞ்சம் தெரியும். ஓரளவுக்கு பேசுவேன். மாஹி, நீங்க பேசுவீங்களா தமிழ்?
I don't know Tamil. Tamil தெரியாது.
Okay, let's take other questions coming in. Thank you, Samya Jyoti Baumik. Thanks for uh, your comment. Let's see any other questions coming in. Kiran Kumar Matam, what is the best open source API gateway? Mahi, do you want to take that?
I think there is a Kong.
Yeah.
Kong is one of the I
Yes.
think
Okay.
best open source API which we'll be using. And if you want to go for AWS, I think API gateways.
Yeah. You have cloud on each of the clouds. You have API gateways.
Yes, yes, yeah. I think Kong is also doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's probably pick up this question coming up from Nagaraj. He's asking, I'm a Java backend developer, 4 years of experience. I know Docker, Kubernetes, and I'm learning AWS currently. How do you think I need to learn any front-end framework like Angular or React? Mahi, do you want to take that?
Ranga, I would like to add. Yeah, sure, I will take that question. See, having a backend, I mean, it is depends on your how much your interest actually.
Yeah,
Suppose if you want to go as a full stack developer, because not every organization will seek only a backend developers. Some of them they will take full stack, because if you take a full stack guy, they will do
yeah,
both.
absolutely.
Okay, so if you take a backend guy, you will just do only backend guy. But
Yeah.
my suggestion is at least you should have one of the front end framework, like Angular and React, and there is a course from Ranga. It is it was
Thank you for finding it out.
so there is a beautiful course which was designed actually. In fact, I am learning React right now. Angular I finished, but React I purposely learning, because the kind of questions which is coming, because so much of advanced thing is happening. So
Yeah,
I am practicing it my locally system. I mean learning it and putting it actually. So my personal opinion is I think it is better to learn one of the front end frameworks like
Yeah,
React.
and like one of the important, like, see, this was a challenge I recognized in 2017, like around that time frame. I thought people, like, if a Java developer learns full stack, at least, I mean, you don't need to be expert, right? So you don't need to understand JavaScript at the same level at which you understand Java. That's impossible. But if you are able to solve a few problems in the front end, that adds a lot of value to your resume as well as to your employer. And if you're able to be okay at Angular or React and be really good at backend, that's really good. I mean, the one very, very, like, I was talking to a few like young developers a few days back, and their expectation was that they would be an expert on Java, they would be expert on Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, and they would be an expert at full stack. That's impossible. If you are starting your career, you can only be expert at a couple of these. I mean, trying to be an expert at everything is something which is doomed for failure, right? So you should be good at Java, for example. If you're good at Java, probably you should be good at containerization, definitely. Probably you should have good knowledge of the cloud, but front end, probably you don't need to be an expert, right? And that's what that was my vision when I was creating the Angular and React course in 2017. So we have a full stack with Spring Boot and Angular course, and a full stack with Spring Boot and React course. These courses are meant towards Java developers. I assume that you know Java, you are good at Spring Boot. So we will not be focusing on Spring or Spring Boot or Java in those courses. The focus is on how to use your Java knowledge and learn the fundamentals of JavaScript and the fundamentals of Angular and React, right? So it's more, one thing is very, very clear. The goal is not to make you an expert on Angular or React. I will not tell you that do that course for 10 hours and you become an expert on Angular and React. That's not the goal. The goal is
Correct.
to make yourself familiar with Angular and React so that whenever you encounter bigger challenges, you can go and solve them on your own. Or you might really take a React or an Angular, so a full course on React and Angular. I mean, you'd see that some of the courses on Udemy, for example, on React and Angular can run into 50 hours, 60 hours. So, yeah, that's not what we do in the course. This course would be focused on helping you get started and have sufficient skills to do okay at your project. So yeah, so I think it's very important to have the front end skills, like Mahi is saying, and as Mahi is saying, you don't need to be an expert as well.
Yeah, I'd like to one more point actually.
Yeah, please.
So if you, I think since you are already a Java developer, I think learning Angular or React is very easy actually, because the style of writing code both in Angular and React is almost same. Like you write a class. I mean, only syntax varies, but the concept behind that it is same
Exactly.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah.
So the fundamental, I mean, there are a few fundamental differences between Java and JavaScript, but if you look at the syntax, JavaScript derives a lot of syntax from Java.
Correct.
Okay, Sri Balaji is here. Hi, Balaji. Uh, Sri Balaji is actually part of our YouTube team. He'll be actually helping us build a lot of content going forward. Yeah, small doubt. People have, yeah, I believe this Spring Boot Microservices is an advanced course. Yes, it is. People who is starting with Java beginners course, what is the course path to Spring Boot and Microservices course? Good question, Balaji. I think the prerequisite before you do the microservices course is you should be good at Spring Boot. We expect you to have, uh, definitely we expect you to be good at Java. We expect you to understand Spring Framework. We also expect you to know Spring Boot. So the if you're looking at a path, then I would recommend do the Java course of ours, then do the Spring Boot course of ours, and then come over to the microservices course. I think that would be the perfect path. Uh, the Spring Boot course teaches you enough Spring to be good at it, and it also teaches you Spring Boot. So yeah, Java, Spring Boot, then you can come over to the microservices course. I think this would be a good path. Uh, during the in the microservice course itself, we have an introductory module on Spring Boot and Spring, but yeah, I would not think those are sufficient. I just added them in just in case somebody comes in without Spring Boot knowledge. Probably that would be a start. But if like, but it would be good if you actually learn Spring Boot and come over here. Mahi,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you covered Ranga, but yeah, I think that is sufficient to. Uh, I think what you covered is that is fine actually. In fact, I
Okay.
think that introductory session like REST APIs building, JPA part, I think you
Right.
covered it so that I mean it is. I mean, if you understand, if you take it a clear path, right? The course is very clean actually. You don't need to go diversion actually. It is a clear path introduction about JPA, then you are going towards how to build a REST API through JPA, then you are coming to Spring Boot, and then to the containerization, Kubernetes, and then how you are going to deploy your code into the cloud architecture. That is the end journey, right? So that's how
Absolutely.
actually.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Mm.
Okay. Glad that you liked it, Mahi. I mean, you are supporting the course, so you are expected to love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's take this question from Kumar Santosh. I want to learn GCP and do the certifications. Please guide. Kumar, like we have, I think, 4 certification courses on GCP. One is Cloud Digital Leader. The other ones are Associate Cloud Engineer. Then we have Professional Cloud Architect, and we also have the Professional Cloud Developer course. Okay, I have, and very soon we will also have the Professional Data Engineer, and I'm still thinking about it whether we'll have the Professional DevOps course. Probably, most probably, you should see that out there as well. Now, um, how do you start going through? I would recommend you to start. I mean, if you have some experience with any other cloud, for example, if you know AWS or Azure, then probably you can skip the Cloud Digital Leader certification. So you can skip that entry level. However, if Google Cloud is your first cloud, then I would recommend you to start with the Cloud Digital Leader certification first. So start with it. And if you are doing a developer or an engineer role, then I would recommend you to try the ACE certification, so Associate Cloud Engineer certification. If you are aiming to be an architect, after that you can go ahead and do the Professional Cloud Architect certification. If you are doing a data engineer role, probably you would want to go for the Professional Data Engineer. So the first one, Cloud Digital Leader, is mandatory. All the other ones are based on your role. So if you're a developer, probably you would want to go for the engineer certification first and then the developer certification. If you are an architect, probably you'd want to go to the architect certification directly. If you are a data engineer, you'd want to go to the data engineer. So start with Cloud Digital Leader and then move on to the other certifications. That would be my recommendation. Mahi, you have completed your AWS Solution Architect certification as well, right? So
Yes,
how was your
Ranga. Oh, it was. I think it was because when I was because I didn't do cloud practitioner directly, but I went directly to the AWS solution architect only.
yeah, you took the
Because
big
for
jump.
yeah, it is a big jump actually. Because but of course that course was really good for what you have built actually. I know you
Thank
have
you.
taken tantamount of leap, and I mean that's what I'm saying, right? It was so simple, but hard work was behind. So you are put it in a very abstract level, but the hard work which you put to course to come into the front, yeah, I think it is designed beautifully. I mean, you no need to think about how that. It's not a fiction novel. I would say it is like a. I mean, go happy path. And also, I would like to add one point here with respect to Kumar. Kumar, my suggestion is um I mean, not only Kumar, to the entire audience actually. So, see, any cloud, right? It is not just a different vendor. It's by concept, it's the same. Only the vendor wise, it is a different. But the concepts behind that is like everywhere there is a concept of instances. There will
Yeah,
be a hardware, there will be ssds, there will be a hdds, and then there will be vpc, and there will be a networking, there will be a data centers. But
yeah,
the nomenclature and the naming conventions might vary from aws to gcp and azure.
exactly.
And they will call it as aws, they will call it as lambda function. Here they will call it as a different function or
Cloud
something like
function.
that. Cloud function or something like that. Yeah,
So Google
concepts
Cloud
are
loves
same.
to do the cloud.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes. Azure function in the Azure actually. So
Exactly.
you think it in that way, so that will you will get a broad scope about the cloud computing, and then
Yeah,
you'll go forward actually. Yeah,
exactly. Actually, what I would recommend is typically be good at one cloud. So take one cloud. Any of them is good. I mean, don't think a lot. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, all of them are equally good. Pick
yeah,
one. uh, which you are most likely to use. If you are using one in your project, go with it.
Mm, mm.
Uh, However, once you pick up the cloud, spend at least a year or two. So spend a year or two understanding it in depth. And
Yes, correct,
you would see that once you understand one cloud in depth, understanding other clouds is very easy. It's like
correct.
you are good at Struts, you are good at Java, you can easily learn Spring and Spring Boot. It's not difficult. The same way, once
Absolutely.
you learn the cloud, you would see that once you are really good at one cloud, understand all the services which are out there, understand how they are useful to you. Learning the remaining clouds is very, very easy. So, I
Correct.
mean, we have courses in AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and the way we built those courses was focusing on the fundamentals, right? Whether it's AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, you have compute services, you have storage services, you have networking services, you have database services. And if you look at the database services, there would be a relational database service. There would be like
NoSQL.
NoSQL database service. There would be a graph database. I mean, it's the same. All cloud platforms offer you the same thing. Security is important. Networking is very, very important, right? So it's the same things
Yeah.
that you would do across. It's just what they call would be different. But to learn, I think the best way is to learn one, be really good at it, hardwire everything into your brain, and then you would see that learning other clouds become much more easier. Absolutely wonderful point, Mahi. I think
Yeah.
that's the way. I think that's the best approach to do things. Girish is asking, do you hire teaching assistants? Mahi, one thing, like we already crossed 1 hour. Can we extend for 15 minutes? Would you have the time to go on for 15 minutes?
Yeah, sure,
Mahi?
Ranga. That's fine. No problem, Ranga. Because there are a couple of
Yeah.
interesting points which I would like to add. Yeah, we
Oh,
can.
super. Very good. Very good. So let's go ahead. Girish is asking, do you hire teaching assistants? Absolutely. If there's a course you have done within 28 minutes, and if you want to support that, do email me, ranga@in28minutes.com. Okay, let's go ahead. Can you plan on implementing a real-time project like e-commerce using microservice architecture and container orchestration? Prithviraj, I think that's what we do in the course as well. Uh, However, uh, the course length right now is 20 hours. Right? If I have to teach REST API, if I have to teach microservices, if I have to teach containers, container orchestration, the course length is 20 hours. And I think 20 hours is more than sufficient, or is kind of the limit for a good course as far as I'm concerned. Uh, Probably building something like an e-commerce thing might be really, really useful, but I doubt if a lot of learners would have the time to spend on such a detailed course. Um, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I would not rule it out, but it's a very interesting idea. But I doubt if there would be a lot of learners who would have the time to pursue that course. What do you think, Mahi?
Yes, Ranga. Like you said, right? I mean, it's a very good question actually. Because right, real-time projects like e-commerce and these things, right? It covers a lot of concepts as well. I mean, the point why maybe why he has to ask that question might be because right, we are covering most of not most of them, all of the concepts in the current project, current microservice architecture, current course.
Yeah,
But if you do that in one of the use cases like retail part, like e-commerce or something, right? So maybe he's thinking about is there any point where we can use Webflux or
yeah,
Apache event-driven architecture or domain-driven
yeah,
or any kind of a design patterns which we can use it? So
absolutely.
maybe it is thinking about from that perspective might be have added, but it is we will
Wonderful
think
point.
about that, Ranga.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a conversation we'll have. Probably we need to bring a little bit more elements when we enhance the course next year.
Yeah, sure, sure. I think we need to think about that actually.
యా మనం చాలా ఆలోచించాలి దీని గురించి. ఎందుకంటే దేర్ ఇస్ అ క్వెషన్ ఆస్కింగ్ వెదర్ వి ఆర్ తెలుగు పీపుల్. అవును, మేమిద్దరం
అవును.
తెలుగువే. మేమిద్దరం తెలుగులోనే మాట్లాడుకుంటాం. ఐ ప్రాబబ్లీ ఇది మొదటిసారి అనుకుంటా మనం ఇంతసేపు ఇంగ్లీష్‌లో మాట్లాడడం. ఆంగ్లంలో మాట్లాడడం అని చెప్పాలా మాహి?
ఎస్ ఎస్ ఆంగ్ల మాధ్యమంలో ఫస్ట్ టైం సేపు మాట్లాడడం.
మొదటిసారి ఆంగ్ల మాధ్యమంలో ఇంత సమయం మనం మాట్లాడుచున్నాం అనుకుంటా.
ఎస్
ఓకే.
ఐ
థాంక్స్
థింక్
లాట్.
యా.
Okay, let's move on. Fourth, Sharath is saying he's in fourth year. Okay, cool. Uh, Glad to have people doing college right now. I mean, that's one thing which I'm seeing very, very often these days. A lot of people who are in college are pursuing Udemy courses. I have no idea how, in the fourth year of college, they are even aware of Udemy.
Yeah,
That's a big surprise for me. I see a lot of people actually now pursuing cloud certifications, pursuing the microservice course, who are in third or fourth year of college. I
yeah,
mean, actually, one of the folks that we have in our team, Debru, he's actually doing his fourth year in college as well, and he's actually like he has completed the microservices course, and he's actually even pursuing the cloud ACE certification using our course as well. So yeah, it's glad. I mean, I'm really delighted to see such energy. Like, way to go, guys.
yeah. Learning never should not stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Full Naufal is back with another question. He says, "I like your teaching style. Are you planning to have any code interview course big four, data structures, algorithms?" Big no. uh, like I'm not an expert at. I mean, I've studied data structures and algorithms in college, but I mean, I'm way beyond that, and I don't think my brain at this point would be able to handle data structure, algorithms, and system design. So,
Scalability.
to be really, really frank, I think as far as system design is concerned and data structure and algorithms are concerned, there are a lot of companies who are trying to address that problem. I don't want to focus on that. That's not a problem that we would want to focus on. Getting into fan companies is a problem somebody else is addressing. We would
Yeah,
focus on getting, the way I see it is this, right? So there are a lot of people getting into IT services. There are a lot of people getting into fan services. I mean, fan companies or whatever MNC companies that are there. Once you reach there, people need to learn cloud and DevOps. That's where we would be. We would be helping people, whether they are in IT services, whether they are in the FANG companies. We would help them to learn cloud and DevOps, cloud, DevOps, microservices, serverless. Maybe a few more things. But that's where we are. We would want to focus on that challenge. Uh,
mm,
Let others solve the challenge of getting people into IT services and like FANG. So my like that's kind of the vision. Probably we did not discuss this a lot, I guess, but that's how I think about it in my head.
correct, Ranga. I think because uh, data structures and algorithms is it is like a ocean.
Yeah,
I mean, I know we will be using in a irrespective of whichever the framework which we will do data structures and algorithms. It won't allow you to go. Okay,
yeah,
will be.
exactly. I
It
mean,
is like a part of the framework.
yeah, I think see the most concerning. I mean, the thing is, the reason why I don't want to focus on it is because there are others who are doing good job at it.
Yeah, they are doing
There are
really good job
amazing
actually.
YouTube channels just focused on system design. There are amazing YouTube channels which are just focused on data structures and algorithms. And these are
Yeah,
not concepts which are trivial. Right? These are
yeah.
very, very important. These are fundamental. These are difficult to teach, difficult to
Mm.
learn. And it's not something which, I don't want to get into it unless I would want to spend a couple of years there. Right. So,
I
yeah, and
think
I
rest
doubt.
of our life we have to spend, Ranga. Rest of our
Yeah,
life we have to
exactly.
spend if you build on that, yeah, data structures and algorithms actually. Yeah,
Exactly.
mm.
Let's move on to the other ones.
Mm.
Durga Raju is asking, could you suggest course on containerization, Docker, and Kubernetes?
We have, we
Uh,
have, we have.
yeah, we do have. We have a lot of courses actually on
Mm.
those topics. If you are on Java Spring Boot, so if you are working with Java Spring Boot, using them every day, then I would recommend you with the course that we are talking about right now, Master Microservices with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. That course teaches you the microservice concepts and then uses Docker and Kubernetes to containerize your Spring and Spring Boot. However, if you are not a Spring Boot developer, if you are working with Node.js, Python, or if you are working with Java, then I would recommend the course Master DevOps with Docker, Kubernetes, and Azure DevOps. I would call it a 5-in-1 course. If you look at DevOps, there are multiple aspects: containers, container orchestration, infrastructure as code, continuous integration, continuous deployment. So we wanted to create a course which covers all of these. So we created that course, Master DevOps, uh, with Docker, Kubernetes, and Azure DevOps. It also talks about Jenkins. It also talks about Ansible, and we also talk about Terraform in there. I mean, Terraform actually is now my favorite DevOps tool, along with Docker. So Docker actually is a very, very important part of DevOps for me. In addition to that, infrastructure as code, Terraform, and probably Pulumi would be, yeah, my favorites. So we cover all of those in that course. So that's a wonderful course to go through to get a high level understanding of the course.
Yeah.
Mahi, did you get a chance to do that course? I mean, I'm not sure we talked about it, right? The mass micro DevOps.
I think I'm just. This year that is one of my this thing, Ranga. Like I said, right? I want to. I mean, I was part of a DevOps team in my current company, but not in extension. So I have to be expertised in that actually, not in expertise way, but I need to do that. That's what this week.
Okay.
The course which I have done some portion of it actually due to the time constraint.
Okay.
Due to the time constraint, I was not able to do it completely, but I will do it immediately now.
Okay. Cool. I mean, you don't need to. You have a lot of things on your hand right now, so
Yeah,
I think it's a very good course. It's a amazing
yeah,
course.
yeah. It is an
I think.
amazing course. Everyone
Yeah.
must to pursue it actually. Ranga made it. It's like a what you call family pack of biryani.
Absolutely. Like I was actually like I mean I think I don't know if Ravi is here. Like actually Ravi and we had another amazing instructor
Yeah,
who's more. He was instrumental in designing this course, and yeah, it was an amazing journey. I think at that point when I did this course, this was the most difficult course that we created ever. I would say right now probably it would be number two behind our first AWS course, which was Solution Architect. I like because it was my first cloud course. I found AWS Solution Architect really, really challenging. But
mm,
before that, the last course I found really, really challenging was DevOps, especially because we brought in the entire journey: containers, container orchestration, infrastructure as code, continuous integration, continuous deployment, whatever. I mean, obviously, DevOps. There are so many DevOps tools out there. People actually uh, fit almost everything into DevOps, right? Today, any tool you talk about is part of DevOps. So yeah, we just wanted to have the right boundary to give the right exposure.
mm.
Yeah, I think we did a wonderful job. And the feedback, I mean, more than 50,000 learners have pursued that course. And the feedback which we are getting is really, really awesome.
Yes,
Yeah,
Ranga, because DevOps is see earlier days, right? It is not like like you said, right? DevOps is not something only the people, operation people should know, but not like that.
okay,
Like DevOps is it is part of developers culture actually. Okay, at least we should know how the Jenkins is working. Okay, you should know how Git will work, how the pipeline should work, what are the different stages, what are the different scripts which you have to learn when you are building through the Jenkins, because Jenkins is kind of a different templates which will help you to do the automation actually.
exactly.
Okay, so like that. So I think I'm not
And also,
saying we
cloud
should
makes it
not
very, very
avoid
easy.
that actually. Yeah,
Yeah, and also cloud makes it very, very easy, right? So
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't even need to worry about Jenkins anymore because a lot of
Yes.
companies, if they are using a specific cloud provider, they are using the continuous integration tool of that specific cloud, maybe Azure DevOps or
Mm,
Cloud
mm,
Build, Cloud. Like one of those cloud specific services are the ones which a lot of enterprises are making use of. And using these continuous integration, development tools, once you understand the concepts, it's not difficult, right? I mean, a lot of people have the misconception that learning a DevOps tool is very, very difficult. Actually, the most challenging aspects are learning to build programming or learning to
yeah,
build a web application, learning to build a full stack application, learning to build an API. These are difficult. Learning
yeah,
Spring Boot or learning DevOps, Docker, Kubernetes, or learning Terraform, that's not difficult. You need to find the right teacher. You need
mm,
to find somebody you like, somebody who you can spend a lot of time with. That's the only thing. Once you are able to
yeah,
do that, you will be able to easily learn. I mean, to master Docker, I don't think you need more than a week if you find the uh, right place, right
yes,
things to
yes,
work for you, right? So
yeah,
tools are easy to learn, right? But yeah, it's the fundamentals which are difficult. Design
correct,
is very difficult to learn. Being good
correct,
at
Ranga.
design is really, really good. Understanding when to use a specific design pattern and when not to use a design pattern, that's also difficult to learn.
Yeah.
Sharath, actually, we misread your question. So Sharath is not in the fourth year of college. He's actually doing his job in his third year, and he's actually working as a backend developer, and he has an interest towards DevOps. He's asking if he invests time into DevOps now. Can I crack DevOps role in the fourth year? For sure. Okay, I wouldn't say for sure. Actually, probably I'm overselling it. Probably, I think the way I would teach it is if you do the DevOps course, you would get sufficient knowledge to identify what would be the things which would get you into a job. So it would really give you a great introduction to all the important things related to DevOps. And if you would want to learn more, like if there are few gaps compared to what you want with your job profile, you can easily fill them once you complete the course. So it would be a great starting point. I would put it that way. I don't think it would take you all the way to a job, but it would definitely be the best starting point out there on the internet, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would like to add one point. I think, see, since you are a backend developer, it's not about just your application building, like Ranga said, right? You should know the complete flow of right from building to the deployment. So that's where the DevOps is surely he'll help you to do it actually. Because if your code relying on residing on your local computer doesn't make sense. If it is not publicly available, actually, your code or your APIs or something like that, that's where we need to substantiate our knowledge in terms of building, learning about it's the DevOps is concept is that one only, development and operations. It's like we have to do how the things to moving forward, and see the beauty of your code moving from development to operations actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think DevOps is nothing new, right? We have been taking code to production all the while. We have been supporting things. I mean, we
Yes,
have been
yes, yes.
supporting applications in production for years, right? Decades,
Correct.
actually.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
nothing new. It's just like the way I see it is just a place where we are actually giving more importance to certain things, right?
correct.
One is
Correct.
communication, ensuring that there is communication throughout the like life cycle of a project, not just the business and the development team talking to each other, but also
Mm.
kind of bringing the operations into picture. The other
Correct.
important thing we try and do is get feedback. Right? Earlier, if you look at like I remember like developing a project for 6 months, and after 6 months is when my customer saw the project for the first time, right?
Mm.
So he had no idea what to expect at that particular
Yes,
point in time, and there
correct.
was, and that's where feedback becomes really, really important. Now with the modern approaches, the feedback becomes easy because we are in agile. Probably you have a demo every 2 weeks, and also we have continuous integration, continuous deployment. If something fails, you would get email immediately. If I put something to production and if it's causing a problem, there is automation to identify the problem and roll it back. So all that kind of automation is where we are is what we are calling DevOps. This is nothing
Correct.
new. We have been doing it. It's just that we are getting better at doing that, and we want to give it a name. We call it DevOps. Uh,
Correct.
yeah, that's how I kind of
Hmm.
see it. Nothing new. It's yeah. I mean, in the software world, like every few years, we want to come up with a few terms so that we have much more interesting jobs.
Yeah,
How
recently someone asked me one question actually, Mahi, because she is my colleague actually. She is trying to do cloud practitioner exam. Mahi, please let me know because many people are talking about cloud, cloud, cloud everywhere. Please, could you please let me know how this in a very simple words? I
exactly?
told that earlier days how marriages are happening, now how marriages are happening, it's a just makes a difference because earlier days everything is happening at our home because preparing a food at all our place. Now we are giving renting to someone. Okay,
Exactly.
so you know
Catering.
the catering, how it will people. So you
Exactly.
know how many people will work. The same thing,
Yeah.
your application scalability, how many
Yeah.
people will trying to use it, and what kind of a work and so I explained it in that simple words because right,
Yeah.
I think and she cracked that exam actually. She pinged
Exactly.
me and Mahi, I was able to do it because of your course.
Cool. I actually call it out as somebody else's computer. So it's
Yeah,
basically instead of buying a computer, you are renting somebody else's computer. As simple as
yes,
that, right? So that's what
yes,
cloud is. Except that,
yeah,
I mean, when you are renting somebody else's computer, you have to be very, very particular about security. You don't
yeah,
want. So
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Because you don't
yeah,
have complete control anymore. Like it's somebody
yeah, yeah,
else's.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
that's
where
what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Thanks, Mahi. That's awesome. Um, like, yeah, lot more questions coming in from Full Nahal. Full Nafal. Okay, Azure DP 9203 now in your courses. Are you planning to add it? What's the difference with DP 900? Okay, uh, right now what we have on Azure are AZ 900, DP 900, and AI 900. Right? These are the most fundamental Azure certification courses. If somebody is getting started with Azure, whether you are a tester, whether you are a project manager, whether you are a developer, probably you want to start with Azure Fundamentals, which is AZ 900. DP 900 is data fundamentals. If you are doing anything with data in Azure and if you have no exposure to the cloud at all, probably DP 900 would be a great point to start. And AI 900, if you want to see the power of AI and like you want to explore that, AI 900 would be the best course, right? DP 203 would be a far more advanced data engineering kind of a course. So actually, we don't have any plans to get into any of the deep Azure courses. So we don't have any plans to get into architect or developer or any of the data practitioner courses for now. Maybe we will reevaluate it at the end of next year and see where we would want to go. But as far as Azure is concerned, I think we most probably created our last Azure certification course. AZ 900, DP 900, and AI 900 would be the like. I mean, I would never say never, but I think the probability that we would create a new Azure course on a new Azure certification uh, probably is very minimal. There are a few other things. I mean, there are a few personal things related to Azure, which is the reason why I don't want to get into Azure. Not nothing to do with technology. It's more to do with people. Like I can't talk about them here. So probably we created our last Azure course. That's probably what I can offer in here. Cool. Yeah, let's probably pick up a few more questions. Uh, let's probably pick up detailed course on database and ETL testing. Not my areas of expertise, so probably will not have a course in there. Um, Vipul is asking, can you make a course on resilience for J or one video? Vipul, I saw that you already told you were part of the microservices course, and as part of the microservices course, resilience for J is covered. So I think, yeah, just go ahead to the microservices course. You'd see content on resilience for J in there. Madhusudan is saying learning mode. Madhu, you are a teacher as well. So, learning mode is the most important thing, right? I mean, unless we learn, we can't teach.
Correct.
My primary role is as a teacher. Learning is the most important thing. And as I said in my New Year post in LinkedIn, today the industry is changing so fast. Cloud and DevOps are like enterprises are moving to the cloud and DevOps at such a pace that unless you learn, I don't think it would be easy in the industry. And more than that, actually, I look at learning as a way to be really good at your career. Uh, if if you are a good learner, I feel you can do your job much faster, and therefore you would have time to invest. I mean, it's like you learn, you save time, you invest it somewhere to learn new things, you save more time. So that's the cycle, right? So that's very, very important as a software professional. The more you learn, the faster you are at doing things. So yeah, it's
Correct.
very, very
Totally agree.
important. Yep. Thanks. You have a thanks from Madhusudan as well, Mahi. Thanks to Mahi for sharing your knowledge. Shenmukh is asking any new courses to be added in GCP. Yes, right now we have 4. As I said earlier, we have cloud, like the ACE, Associate Cloud Engineer. We have Professional Cloud Developer, Professional Cloud Architect, and we have also the Cloud Digital Leader. And the next course we would be releasing would be Data Engineer, the Professional Data Engineer, and probably by the end of the year we should also release the Professional DevOps course. And like one of the things which are lacking in our GCP courses right now is the practice tests. So probably we'll have a few more practice tests courses added in as well. So those would be the new courses which will be coming in GCP. Let's probably pick up a few more courses. Abhishek, like these would be the last two questions that we'll be picking up. So I think I have overshot the time that I promised Mahi. So let's pick up these two questions and end it in here. Abhishek Dubey is asking, I am a Google PCS certified, basically from Java background. Certificate is expiring soon. Should I renew the same certificate or which cloud certificate should I target? Abhishek, if your cloud, if your PCS certificate is expiring, I'm very, very happy because that means you have almost 3 years of experience with Google Cloud, right? So that's good. I would definitely recommend you to renew this same certification first because I think there are a lot of changes in the Google Cloud in the last couple of years. I would definitely recommend you to renew, spend some effort. It should not be the same effort as you had earlier. Probably it would be 25% of the earlier effort. I would recommend you to invest that effort, renew yourself with Google Cloud. There are new amazing case studies as well as part of the certification. So go ahead, do that, and definitely learn another cloud. I think you should be pretty senior. So multi-cloud is where the enterprises are heading. So I would definitely recommend you to learn one more cloud, AWS or Azure. Toss a coin, pick up one, and do an architect certification in there. I think that would be best way to start. Mahi, do you have an opinion there?
Uh, I think you covered Ranga. I think I don't have anything, but yeah, I think you covered Ranga. No, no, no. I
Okay,
think you
cool.
pretty much covered.
Yeah, let's quickly take this. What's your approach for learning, and what's your advice? Advice is to keep learning. Right? We are in
Yeah,
software,
keep
so keep
learning,
learning. What's your
keep
approach
learning,
to learning? Keep doing
keep
things.
learning, and adapting and experimenting. Actually, experiment is more important on some certain things. Actually,
Exactly.
uh, yeah,
Yeah. I think my approach to learning is a very hands-on approach.
yes,
I know who I learn the
pragmatic.
best. I learn the best reading books. Behind me, you can see them. You would see like what you are seeing behind are probably 1% of my books. uh, I read a lot of books. If I
Me
want to
too.
learn Google Cloud, probably I would read 5, 10 books on Google Cloud before I would even venture into an online course. So I
Mm.
love reading books. I feel the value that a book offers is much more than any of the course. I mean, I create courses, but I love reading books. So
Totally.
I learn by reading. I learn by doing. So if I'm learning a new tool, new framework, my approach is how did I do this earlier without that? And how do I do the same thing using the new tool? For example, if I'm learning containers, probably what I would do is actually pick up an application which I worked with earlier, containerize it, deploy it, and see what problems I would face. Right? That's the best way I learn because then uh, I'm relating to my like I have 20 years of experience with software, so I would see how I did things earlier and yeah, and see how things are being done today, compare it and learn. Like for me, learning by doing, learning by reading books are the ways. My like, how do you learn?
For me, it is a pragmatic approach, always actually, because I'll always stick to the basics first. Actually, for me, the basics are very much important to me. Even till date, I always, if I so sometimes I have the afraid of forgetting the fundamentals actually. So I'll go back fundamentals, and then because right, Java. Uh, Now Java 17 is uh, released actually.
Long term
Java
support.
18 is about, yeah, LTS is coming, but I mean, it's a version change might be different or something, but the concepts behind what was built on Java 8 was predominantly using in most of the in upcoming this ones actually. I mean, there is a it's not a great leap from Java 8 to Java 17. Only few things, a few syntaxes in terms of this one, but Java 8 learning Java 8 was for me is like not just Java 8, any concept with respect to Spring Boot or microservices, because today whatever we are learning, like suppose if I'm learning a new concepts like Spring Back Flux or something, is there anything I left behind? Something like a template driven, like a REST template or something? Because right now, whatever the approaches which we are doing, whether you are learning a Kafka, it is a template driven. Whether you are learning at REST, it is a template driven. If you are learning a JDBC, it is a template driven. So you have to learn it from this perspective, and try to experiment it in different the same application. Okay, you experiment it in a different scenarios, different
Exactly.
OSs, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what we do in the courses as well. So if you
Yes.
look at our Spring Boot course, probably what we would do is actually build a JSP servlet application, then kind of build it using Spring Boot. And actually, in one of the courses, even I actually remove the Spring Boot jar and actually slowly switch to like building the same thing without using Spring Boot but using Spring. So I feel that gives you a lot of knowledge. It gives
Yeah.
you like really good perspective. I mean, having looking at the older way of doing things and looking at newer way like gives you a lot more knowledge and also when there's a problem, when there's a challenge, you are much more ready to solve it. You
Yeah.
know exactly where to do because you understand it in depth, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's absolutely wonderful points, Mahi. I think we almost spent 90 minutes in here. Thanks a lot for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. Mahi,
No
do you have
problem.
any final words you'd want to leave to the people who are on the call?
Uh, Nothing. I would like to thank Ranga for giving me this platform to explore and share my knowledge, because I love teaching. I love interacting with people. I, uh, I mean, that's what I do in right from the beginning, because right from my childhood, I was always love to read books, uh, read and experiment more on the technology. Because even though I'm from a mathematics background, I never thought that I will do this much quality code on what I
Okay.
am writing today. Okay, and I think that sharing platform is important to you, because my sincere gratitude, Ranga, for that. And also, with respect to the, there is a one point I would like to add, and then I will leave it to you, leave the meeting actually. So see, whatever you are learning with respect to Spring Boot, right? Don't forget the Richardson maturity model. Don't forget the rest, because I know many of we are working on asynchronous these things, because we are working on event driven architecture or domain driven architecture. But don't always have the a strong foundation on Richardson maturity model, and then to the REST APIs, how the structure is working. Then you learn the Spring Web Flux.
Yeah.
Then I think it gives a lot of uh, a lot of concepts actually. And also, d- always try to imbibe the Java 8 concepts in most of these things actually. I think one of the question which they talked about the resilience 4J. I know Netflix has deprecated the history concept, but they are more because it is like I said, right? Resilience 4J is mainly talking about how we can decouple the models and write it as a function actually. Okay, it is like earlier history was a bundle jar, which is like a fat jar. Now it was loosely coupled and made it as small jars, so that whatever the components which you need it, which you can use it actually. That is all about that. It's lightweight library actually.
So if I
Okay,
can
that's all.
summarize what you are saying, Mahi, you are saying
Mm.
focus on the fundamentals, right?
Yes,
Focus on
focus
fundamentals
on
and
fundamentals. Yeah,
focus
focus on
on
fundamentals.
exactly. Once you
Yeah.
understand the fundamentals, you do
Mm.
really, really well. It's
Yes,
not
yes.
about how many things that you can do, but it's about uh, understanding the fundamentals and doing the things which you can very, very well.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Mahi, for taking the time to be in here. A lot of
Yeah.
people I can see are loving the interaction that we had today. If you have, uh, like, if you are as good as Mahi and you want to be part of the team, do not forget to shoot out an email to me, ranga@in28minutes.com. We are looking for talent.
Mm.
And yeah, we would love to take in 28 minutes brand out to a lot of people. Our goal for the next couple of years is to make in 28 minutes the number one brand as far as DevOps and cloud is concerned. So if
Correct.
you want to learn DevOps and cloud, we would want to be the number one place you'd go out to. And that's what we are focusing on doing in the next few years as well. And if
Yes.
you think that's a good challenge, then yeah, go ahead, shoot an email, and probably we'll have a chat very, very soon. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be in here. And yeah, thanks a lot, Mahi, to be like for coming in and taking the
No
time out.
problem. Always
Yeah,
for you,
thank
Ranga.
you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
like